All right. Hello everybody. Selamat malam, malam yang hujan. I hope everybody tidak basah di rumah. You are, and yet that you have already had your dinner. I am Ophelia. My name is Ophelia, the moderator untuk hari ini. So I am very happy for the invitation daripada Rambutan Code Academy dan juga SINIC, which stands for Sabah Creative Economy and Innovation Center. And hari ini kita akan bercakap tentang the importance of the government's intervention towards Sabah's digital transformation. So itulah kita punya cerita hari ini. Really, dia punya setup of kita punya webinar today is very santai, very santai in a sense that dia ni macam kamu imagine saja semua orang chill dalam saya punya living room, okay? So I am very happy that I have I've got 3 people that will be coming into my living room ini hari, and it is Madam Doria, Professor Madia, Dr. Ramzan Dambul, which I'm gonna refer to as Dr. Rem today, and also Mr. Lim Ze Xiong, which I am going to refer as Lim today. So let me just invite Lim first to come on into my living room. Introduce yourself a little bit, Lim, and my first question to you is, when you look at the question of the webinar for today, what comes to your mind first? Over to you.
Hi, Ophelia. Thanks for having me. Right, so my name is Lim. I'm a Sabahan working in KK for the past, maybe almost 2 decades, right? So I'm the City of Mind Valley. We are actually an educational tech company, right? Our main focus is in personal growth, and my day-to-day involves managing a team of 80 plus team, the technology team, and then basically building the educational platform to deliver transformation to our clients, right? So when I saw the title of the webinar, right, the first thing that popped into my mind is that, because I read about what other government did, right? Some really cool stuff that, for example, the Estonian government. The Estonian government is known for having their entire government stack online, right? You can even apply for an e-citizenship, right? Then you can start a business completely online, right? You don't have to visit any sort of branch or anything, and you can do everything online. They submit forms and everything online, right? So that's very cool. I think this is a really important step, right, to take the government services, right, if possible. And then another one that I think is even more impressive is the Indian government. As you know, India is like the second most populous country in the world, right? They actually have a system, I think it's known at AFCA or something, right? It's like basically the Hindi word for foundation, right? So it's basically the largest biometric system in the world, right? There's like 1.2 billion people in it. It's not only just for the citizen of India, right? Anyone who works there, have some sort of permanent residency there, working there, right? Have this ID that they give you that is required to basically do anything with the government, right? It's like the foundation piece that you need, like a key like that, right? That identifies who you are, and then you'll be able to may open a business or do certain access healthcare and all that. I think that's also very important, right? So we know who the person is, and we have up-to-date information because this is all digital. And then they take a next step also. There's something called DigiLocker. DigiLocker is like a service that allows you to kind of like put all the documentation into a digital locker so that you can share it with different people. For example, if you go to the bank, right, you want to apply a loan, they will ask you for your pay slip, they ask you for all kind of documents, right? DigiLocker allows you to put this online and set certain access, right? You can the bank, for example, can ask for access. I want to access your last 3 months salary, right, for certain purposes, right? You then can allow it. And what's even cooler is that you will allow it to do that thing only. For example, like maybe it's set to expire after they have reviewed it, right? So that you don't actually hold the document forever, right? It's enough to do the job, right? I think that's also very important in this world where we talk about data privacy, right? Like people are concerned about having data floating everywhere. And I think we all have this, experience having our IC photostated and crossed, in every single, in banks or whatever thing, right? So in this case, it kind of like eliminate that whole thing, right? They can request for that kind of data through your DigiLocker, then you kind of like grant them access. So I think that is very cool. So I'm wondering, maybe our government has any such of plans, right, bringing this to reality.
I've got a question for you, Lim. You raise India as one of the examples to, when you're talking about, digitalization, we as Sabahan would look forward to it. We were thinking Silicon Valley immediately. But it's interesting how you did not mention Silicon Valley at all, because I think um, the world is bigger than Silicon Valley, and it's interesting that you came up with Silicon Valley, because Silicon Valley is like the Asian Silicon Valley, right? So my question about the thing that you were talking about, the digital locker in India, um, I guess the question that I'd like to ask is it hackable? Do you know, like, how we want to make something, and then there would be another person who is at the back end who will be mending and, trying to change information and data, that kind of thing that happens, right, in our country and in many countries. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think this, I mean, you have people in between, there's always going to be that risk, right? But this kind of thing depends on how transparent they are with the whole process. Because they are in technology, right? There are certain ability with encryption that prevents you from, tampering with the information, right? For example, it's a very simple example, right? You just say you want to access my IC for to verify certain things, right? I can encrypt that IC in certain way, right? That you expire after certain time, right? So that you cannot access it anymore. It's an example, right? And this is, for example, like, blockchain you cannot tamper with, because once it's in the ledger, you need consensus to modify it, right? So there are a lot of technology that we can leverage to do that, to counter this bad actor problem that we have, right? And I think maybe, in the Dr. Ram could be even better at understanding this kind of questions, right? So I'm not a crypto expert, but I know for a fact that there are ways to go around it. It's not perfect, but generally is safe enough for us to rely on.
Wonderful. Thanks for opening and setting the mood of our conversation this evening, Lim. I'd like to ask questions to Madam Doria now. Thanks, Lim. We'll get back to you with more questions later. But Madam Doria is the Director of Digital Government. It's a state public service department, and it's a Sabah state government punya body, right? So it's not a federal thing. So you being in the government, Madam Doria, I'd like to know, what is the government, the state of Sabah doing? Just answering kita punya question. What are your roles and what are your plans in digitizing Sabah? Madam Doria, over to you.
Okay. Good evening to one and all. Thanks for having me, Ophelia. Salam sejahtera dan salam Sabah Maju Jaya. I'll be happy to share our vision that is for a digital Sabah, and we have a name for it, and we call it Digital Innovation 2024. So, should I share my slide now? Is it the right time, or you want me to?
Yeah. Go ahead. What do you have in store for us? I am looking forward to looking at it. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. Are you seeing the slide?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I will just thank you for this opportunity to share what we have, a vision that we have come up with for Digital Sabah. So this is a 5 years plan. As you know that Malaysia actually has embarked on a journey on digital transformation, and with the My Digital Economy that was launched by the federal government, the state government also has an initiative that will drive at our state level. So it's a 5 years approach. This visionary approach is driven by the Civil Service Administration of Sabah under the stewardship of the State Secretary. A 5-year strategic plan to roadmap the journey to achieve digital transformation of the state government, and it was launched in 2020. So this is the roadmap. And just to explain that what we plan to do, the target is to drive towards the innovative state driven by digital strategies. And we call this plan the Sabah Digital Innovation 2024. And the target is to achieve a digitally ready state government machinery that is capable of delivering enhanced levels and quality of delivery of services to the people. And pivoting this is also the plan to implement a digital economy by the year 2024, which is platformed on a robust digital exchange that will create new enterprise opportunity for Sabah business. So in this plan, we are looking at enabling 5A for the civil servant, that is, and also for the people, the rakyat of Sabah, that is accessible anytime, anywhere, anyone, any device, and to drive the governance, the business, and the social transformation. So the state governments would like to establish 3 data hubs: the people hub, the business hub, and the jaw hub. And through a data exchange, we have looked at successful model, as Lim has shared just now, Estonia and Singapore, how they have do digital transformation and run a digital government. So we will like to showcase through our hub creations, and to showcase to the people and also among the public agency how we can from here we would like to leapfrog and enable more application to be developed, G to G, government to government, business to government, and citizen to government. So this is the plan we have. So for these 3 data hub, people, business, and jaw, we want to know our citizen, know our economy, and know our locations. And we know that 80% of our data collected today are with locations which are location based. So this will be useful for us. And also the way forward is we begin with a data strategy of a good data governance among the public agency. From there, we will come up with this data hubs and data exchange, and hopefully to develop with an agile and scalable process, and also the exchange platform in focusing on use cases that are useful and effective, and also with the strategic roadmap aligning a clear and systematic whole of government approach to digital transformation. And we know that we will keep the communication open with both federal government and also the local government. And we will like to have feedback from the people as well, from the private sector. And this we hope to drive the social economy transformation, especially in a post-COVID recovery. So with a strong commitment and leadership, Sabah could potentially leapfrog to the future in a digital manner. So this is gist of what we are doing in the state level.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Madam Doria, for showing us the mission and what the Sabah state government is already, planned. I've got a question for you. Looking at the roadmap that you laid, 2020 to 2024. So now we are in 2021, and I'm sure the plan was done before we knew where Wuhan was. Sebelum kita tahu apa barang ini Wuhan ini, I'm sure the government has already thought about this and have already planned, right? So now COVID has come in, it has disrupted everything. So sampai mana sudah, Madam Doria? The roadmap that you did with 2021 sudah 2 tahun. Where are we at now at the implementation of your proposed project?
I think for us, other than the fact we could not meet up physically to carry out workshop or engagement with the government agency to understand more, but all has been taken online. So we have managed to do consultancy workshop online. So it's still good. We are still going ahead as what we have planned. Just that it has to be online.
Wonderful. Okay, so it's not being paused lah kan. It is ongoing, but like everything that has changed, like how this webinar is also online. Overnight we wake up and tada, everyone is meeting online. It's so shocked that everybody now is like a hybrid. Everybody di atas segak. Kalau saya berdiri, kamu nampak saya punya seluar pendek. So it's that's probably one of the good thing that has happened with this pandemic. All the bad things that happened, tapi the good thing about this pandemic is whether we like or not, the digitalization bit. Maybe last time people were planning, but people are really pushing things forward right now when it comes to digitalization. I've got one more question for you, Madam Doria. With all the plans being laid out, I just want to know, without good internet, how are we going to achieve that?
Still going ahead. I think a lot of us are depending more on our handphone, the data services. We are also talking through our ministry. They are talking with MCMC, and all these are being taken care by different people. It's a collaborative effort. Everyone plays our part. So different ministry will look into the infrastructure for us. So my side is focused on the strategy and also the use cases, the application development. But other agency will look into internet for us.
Right. Okay.
In
Because
good hand.
as a rakyat, as a manusia biasa, as a normal Sabahan, that's my hope. That's like, even in my living room, even where I am right now, I've got to open the door if I am gonna go on things like this, because it eats up more data, and sometimes I get so nervous about it lags. So these are some of the things where I go, okay, wonderful things that the government is doing, but if the internet is not being fixed, then kita tak akan kemana-mana, right? So thank you very much, Madam Doria. I'll get back to you. Let's move on to the one and only well-known Dr. Rem, who is always there, and we really appreciate your time, Dr. Rem. We know that you've got to step out because 9:30 they ada again another online activity. So, Dr. Rem, coming from the academic bit and as an educator and also a researcher, what is the education bit? How has it changed? How is the education and research bit changed because COVID came? Over to you. You're muted.
Masalah ni kan. I mean, everybody is still, I think, try to readjust with the new normal. So, okay, thank you. Kalau di university, talking about this digitalization in university, so we are also part of the players yang affected to that digitalization because of maybe due to the pandemic also kan, sebab macam yang tadi tu we have talked about the pandemic. Actually pandemic itu one good things about the pandemic when it comes to digitalization is it kind of speed up the process because the pandemic give us no more option to do it in a traditional way. So mau tidak mau kan, kau mesti pergi juga online bahkan walaupun dulu kau bilang phobia in the real lah di online ni kan, but now we don't have the choice. But anyway, okay, university pun terlibat juga because kita ni kan pendidikan, so education. All this while kan we are so used to face-to-face punya pendidikan apa semua. So we need to change lah yang itu tu. I will talk a bit about that challenge lah later. But as the university where we have 90% of the technologists and scientists in Sabah, I'm talking about scientists and technologists in Sabah, the entire Sabah, 90% are in IPT, college or university in Sabah. And because UMS is the biggest in Sabah, So we have the most daripada yang 90% tu, I would say probably 60% above or 70% come from us lah, because kita ni paling ramai, paling besar lah kan. So now, when we are talking about digitalization, one of the element that we must know is this is a technology driven. It is a technology and innovation driven. So who is going to nurture that technology and innovation? Of course lah, all these scientists and technologists kan. Tapi kita punya masalah, this is not only for Malaysia, this is not only for Sabah, tapi Malaysia in general lah. Our problem is, kita punya teknologis dengan saintis ini bah, bukannya ada di industri tau, only 20% di industri. 80% lagi adalah di university dan juga research institute. You get what I mean? So they are supposed to develop the technology, they are supposed to develop that innovation which these people, real people on the ground will use kan. Tetapi masalah dia, you are in the university, you are in the research institution, you are not connected to the ground kan. So how do you do that kan? Macam ada masalah sikit lah kan. Berbeza dengan macam let's say for example lah Korea. Why Korea is so successful when it comes to science innovation driven economy or digital economy? Kalau mau lebih spesifik kan. Because 80% of their scientists and technologists are with the industry, real in the industry kan. So they really know what they want to develop kan. But I wouldn't want to take that as a problem lah kan, because that is just the setup kan. Kalau kita mau minta puji pun kata kita mau restructure itu apa semua, it will take long many years lah kan. Bukan senang tu kan, sebab that is the setup for the last few decades kan. Now, how we are going to make sure that we fully optimize our researchers and technologies so they can contribute to the development of whatever the industry needs kan. Now, we need to bridge the gap between the academia, saya cakap akademia sebab kami ni akademia lah bahkan, and the industry. Sebab at the end of the day, kita mesti ingat, dua ini kan dalam dunia yang berbeza tau. Dalam dunia yang berbeza. Moderator, Filia, kalau saya cakap panjang betul apa semua, potong saja and we go to there. Kau tahulah bahkan kalau pensyarah ni kan selalu tidak sedar diri. Mau cakap saja banyak-banyak.
Go ahead.
Ya, so sekarang ini macam mana kita mau bridge itu? Sebab naturally academia, the academics and the people in the industry, memanglah diorang tidak bercakap. It is two different world kan. Sebab itu saya cakap, di sinilah peranan, kita balik semula kepada kita punya tajuk ni, peranan government. It is the peranan of the government to first bridge this one. Sebab itu saya kata, I'm very sorry Madam Doria, I'm not trying to criticize what the government is doing atau apa-apalah kan. Tapi I always think that before we want to move with all this kind of roadmap lah, what we want to do apa semua, try to tackle the fundamental first. What is the fundamental? Itulah yang saya kata. We need to bridge between these technologies, scientists yang ini tu kan, dan juga industry. So we need to create a platform. Only government, only policy can do that. Sebab we can force kan. We need to create some kind of platform lah kan. At the moment, we don't really have that one. Maksud saya in a structured way. Of course, we have seen it yang di bawah Puan Vivi lah. She is doing very good in trying to bridge that one. Tapi itu inisiatif dia sendiri tau. By right, they don't even have that mandate because they are only development agency. Sama juga dengan agensi di bawah Madam Doria lah. So I'm not aiming this to you. I'm aiming to the government as a bigger ecosystem. So, apa pula saya masih lagi kah ini saya dalam tajuk? Masih lagi bahkan. So,
masih.
Okay, saya habiskan yang itu tentang kami sebagai technologists and innovator, scientist di sini. I'm not saying that kami ni kan banyak betul lah idea ke apa semua, but we are trained to produce technology and innovation kan. Tapi sometimes we have problem to transfer it to the industry, to transfer it to the community, to the users because of that gap kan. So we hope that one will be addressed by a good policy from the government. Okay, now talking about kami punya cabaran pula dalam pendidikan ni, saya rasa sama sahajalah kan dengan cabaran di industri. Tapi saya tengokkan Opilia, good things kan, macam bisnes di Sabah ni kan sejak pandemik ni kan banyak yang bukan-bukan kan yang muncul. I mean maksud saya bukan-bukan in a good way lah. Kan yang dulu mana ada orang jual begini-begini ni online. Oh sekarang ni senang pula kan. Dulu kan kita ni kan bercucur sajalah air liur bila nampakkan macam di Pinampang ada satu kedai ni jual this very nice burger sebagai contohnya kan. Tapi kita ni jauh lah bahkan. Jadi takkanlah saya mau drive pergi di sana. Jauhnya itu kan jam-jam lagi kan dulu. Tapi sekarang ini apa-apa yang orang jual seluruh Sabah di seluruh KK ni kan macam boleh saja ni because it is already digitalized kan. Tetapi sama jugalah kami dengan di pendidikan ini kan. Kalau dulu kan susahnya mau buat kelas ini kan. Antara satu kelas dengan kelas yang lain tu kan gap dia kena ada 15 minit atau 20 minit tau. Sebab mau pergi berjalan lagi, mau pergi lari lagi pergi di kuliah tu kan. Tapi sekarang ni siapnya kan. Boleh berturut-turut dalam masa 5 jam tu you can have a solid 5 classes kan. Sebab duduk sejampai-ampai saja di tempat yang sama. Student pun they don't have to run around ke atau apa semua kan. Tapi this is what I want to say. And harap-haraplah ada kita punya wakil-wakil government pada malam ini supaya mereka insaf dan juga tahulah what they need to do. Okay, bila ada wujud perubahan-perubahan macam ni, naturally people will readjust kan. Semua orang ini, bisnes kah, pendidikan kah, di mana-mana macam kita sekarang ini. But I'm telling you that this type of readjustment kan untuk dia berkembang menjadi lebih baik kan secara organik, it will take long time, seriously. So for us to speed up the process so we can have a better productivity in a short time mungkin ni kan, we need a very good guidance, policy from the governments, facilitation from the governments, which is at the moment we don't have. With due respect apa yang di-share oleh Puan Doria tadi, I'm not criticizing sebab mungkin Puan Doria punya task is only for that kan. It is about strategy and trying to connect apa semua tu kan. But where is the policy? Where is the hala tuju? Where is the facilitation from the government for all this apa semua tu kan? Sarawak kan dia sudah ada terlampau jauh sudah pula saya pergi kan. Tidak payahlah kita pergi India ke atau apa. We look at our neighboring state, Sarawak. Diorang sudah ada ordinance tau. Diorang sudah ada regulator untuk digital. Kan? Kita ni kan, kita belum ada pun ordinance. We don't have legislation. We don't have all this ordinance. Sebab at the end of the day, this is my final point. Sebab buruk sudah muka kita punya moderator. Kata kenapa dia ni kan, tamak juga ni gila kuasa betul lama. Okay, my last point is, bila kita semua buat all this digitalization kan, it is good, ada ekonomi lah semua kita pakai, tambah-tambah lagi dengan bantuan daripada strategi daripada kerajaan misalnya yang telah dibangunkan oleh Madam Doria dan tim dia, maka berkembanglah kita punya digital punya activity, ekonomi and digital social. Tapi kita mesti ingat, adakah kita mempunyai perundangan yang cukup? Adakah kita telah bersedia dengan perundangan yang cukup untuk tackle this new landscape of activity? Sebab kita mesti ingat, apabila kita buat bisnes melalui online dan sebagainya, perundangan-perundangan yang biasa itu kadang-kadang tidak bersesuai. Kalau orang itu menipu, contohnya secara online, how we are going to do that? How we are going to regulate? How we are going to prosecute them? Because it need different type of evidence and everything. And if that is not let down, and then susah lah kan. Sarawak is way ahead of us in terms of that lah kan. So we need a little bit of catch up lah. Okay. Saya berhenti sudah ni. Kalau tidak kan saya berhenti.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rem. It's not that saya punya muka buruk ini. Sebab kalau saya mendengar dengan tekunnya, saya begitulah rupa saya kalau saya mendengar. But good to hear from your perspective. Sebab so my question, my next question now is going to be for si Lim, because for you, Dr. Rem, you're saying that the government needs to intervene, needs to come up with the policy so that you guys, which is from the researcher punya academia punya bit, is able to melaksanakan whatever that you are doing. Okay, so that's what you are saying. But I'd like to ask Lim, do you agree or do you disagree with what Dr. Rem is saying? With or without the government, can you still move ahead? Your opinion, Lim.
So, like, depends what you're talking about, right? If you trying to solve something, the government, obviously the government needs to be involved, lah, right? You can't get around with that. So maybe as an example, right? I think if people remember when Obama rolled out the Obamacare website, right, the Affordable Act, right, it crashes, right? Even US, right, the country where Silicon came from, like Silicon Valley, right, couldn't get their website to stay alive, right? So yeah, when it crashes and they had to figure out what went wrong, right? So I think from that experience, they realized that they needed someone or at least some agency to guide the efforts across all the different departments. Maybe I don't not familiar with how our government versus their government, right? But from their government point of view, it's like they also don't have a holistic point of how to approach the thing. There, like Dr. Rem says, right? There's no strategy or wherever we are heading. So they need someone, like you say, facilitate this whole thing, right? To sit down with every single department and look, this is how we're going to do it, right? We're going to do it this way, this approach. Why? So get everyone in order. I think that kind of facilitation, some sort of strategy is probably needed, right? So they actually have a CTO for the US government, right? A chief technology officer for the US government to guide this effort, right? To digitize the government, to help them figure out how do we move forward. Because their system is also the same, right? Like US may look very great from the outside, but some of the smaller agencies also struggle with the same problem that we have, right? So I think maybe Dr. Rem is talking about that, and then I agree, right? I agree that we definitely need people to do that. And the CTO actually came from the private sector, right? They tapped people from Silicon Valley to help out, right? And then from there, the CTO himself tapped his network in the Silicon Valley to bring people into the government to do what needs to be done, right? So that is where the collaboration from the industry and the government can come together, and maybe with academia too, right? To really work together to make it happen, so that people know exactly where we're heading. It's like not a random roadmap coming from different agency, but a singular roadmap for the whole government. Like this is where we're gonna go, and then get everyone to follow that.
I've got a follow-up question with you, Lim. So, what does Mind Valley? And I also understand that you are the founder of FlexNode. Perhaps you'd like to talk a little bit about FlexNode. What does it do? And what are you guys doing without the support from the government?
Okay, so a little bit background, right? So FlexNode is my company in Sabah. Basically, it's a software consultancy, right? We build software for our clients, and 8 years ago, we joined Mind Valley as part of our acqui-hire. Mind Valley basically absorbed us, right? And then we start building things for Mind Valley itself, right? So that's where and then in terms of government thing, I personally has been working remotely since 15, 16 years ago, right? So when people say that, oh no, now remote work is a thing, I'm like, but it's always a thing, right? It's about the mindset, right? It's like, for example, for my case, is the client comfortable not having me in front of him physically, right? And I think over time people realize that actually they don't need someone to be in front of them physically, right? To do work, right? So that is very helpful, and I'm also very grateful that at least for my point of view that I have access to Unify, which is very important, right? Internet is very, very important, right? So because I live in the urban area, right, which is fortunate to have these things. I know that in rural areas there are issues with connectivity, right? And there's also a concern when we are pushing for digitalization without tackling the accessibility problem, right? There are people who are unable to access digital services, right? And then what do we do about that, right? We probably have to approach that part too. You can't just digitize one side without taking care of the other side. So the consumer, the users, also needs to be brought on board, right? Somewhere, one way or another.
Thank you very much, Lim, for your response. Like as you were talking, I'm like nervous because you're freezing, and I'm like, okay, we are talking about the digitalization right now, but why is he freezing? And the back channel is like going frantically, your internet is a little bit slow and things like that. So, Madam Doria, I'd like to ask you the question of, is your agency or is your department really, really pushing the federal government to speed up or do something about the infrastructure?
Yes, definitely from the state government, we have open channel or open communication channel with the federal. We work, that has been our style from government of Sabah. We work with the federal government to strengthen what is lacking in Sabah. Of course, we always would like to have it better, and I believe we always will have a plan B as well in our planning. So that's the plan we have. Like what Dr. Ram has highlighted, definitely this is the issue that has been highlighted in our consultancy as well. The lack of like a puncak kuasa, the legislation, the best practice, the guidelines and policy. These are important to drive technology. Yeah, we very much recognize that part. Yeah. So
Okay. Thanks very much for your response, Madam Doria. We have got a couple of questions that came from our listeners. We've got 2 questions. One is from YouTube and one is from Facebook. So kepada pendengar-pendengar sekalian, penonton sekalian, if you've got any questions that you'd like to address to any one of the speakers, do type it in supaya we can address that. And just for everybody punya information, Dr. Rem will need to step out at 9:15. Jadi dia tidak akan bersama-sama kita sehingga jam 9:30 ya. So anybody who has any question, do shoot it up. Sebab kalau dia sudah terlampau banyak questions, we may not be able to take on all the questions. So the first question here daripada Mariana Rampungan, how does the government should address this problem in a hospital? Government still run on this service manually. So that's the question. So government should be style this problem, even hospital government still run this service manually. I'm not very sure of what this person is asking. I'm not very sure because the question macam ada style di sana. But I guess the question is, macam mana lah tu, sedangkan government hospital also still run on things, service manually. You would go there, government would be, carrying one file, case note to another with derang punya file. So what is your opinion? I know none of you are from the medical industry, but perhaps Dr. Rem would like to answer this question. You unmute.
Oh, sorry. Sudah itu, okay. Boleh dengar sekarang?
Boleh dengar sudah, ya. Go ahead.
So, okay. When I was with Mosti, actually kan saya dulu pernah kerja juga jadi teknokrat juga di Mosti at decision making level. Ini adalah salah satu isu. We are actually tasked to deploy this technology on how to connect this hospital, especially when it comes to data. Satu negara ini kami kena buat. Tapi masa tu kami buat tu is only for few hospital lah di Lembah Kelangka, di mana itu just for testing lah. I do not know what is the current status of that project, but we have been trying to do that and we have a pilot project lah. Sebab it is betul apa yang dia bagi tahu itu. Kesihatan ni adalah satu sektor yang sangat penting, sangat kritikal. Decision making is crucial. Betul atau tidak kan? Katalah kita punya rekod-rekod ni semua di KK bah. Tiba-tiba kita pergi KL, tiba-tiba kita accident lah di mana-mana kan. Palis lah bah. Bukan minta, ini bukan berdoa ni Ini hypothetical punya example So tiba-tiba kita accident di sana, masuk di situ tu kan. Jadi kita ni mau kena bedah. But they need to have your record bah. Ni kan. Tapi rekod tu ada di KK. Jadi sementara orang mau telefon lagi, mau korek lagi tu file apa semua, mati sudah kan. So that kind of issues lah. So we are trying to connect that kan. So sebab this is already done in many other countries kan. Supaya kita punya data tu connected. Now, tapi itulah bah, kadang-kadang dia punya issue dia. And that is why just now I said that before we try to embark on all this ambitious punya project kan, we must have the fundamental. What is the fundamental? The regulation, the legislation. We must have that in place kan. Jadi bila kita start buat yang itu tu kan macam-macam question tau. How about the data punya privacy? Sebab ingat data hospital ni senang-senang saja kah? Who is going to protect that? What would be the right flow kan? Semua-semua begitulah. But having said that, projek itu sekarang ni saya rasa masih lagi berjalan lah, so it is ongoing. Tetapi apa yang, kalau saya dapatlah apa yang ditanya oleh audience kita tadi itu ialah, she is trying to say that sepatutnya di hospital kita ni kan jangan lagi manual ni kan, sebab this is ini, if we can make a decision faster kan, and then mungkin kita boleh selamatkan lebih ramai lagi pesakit. We can also use less resources kan, daripada apa semua tu kan. Tapi this is all ongoing, and I said that for this kind of project to be implemented efficiently, we need a very good policy from the government. So again, come back to the government punya intervention, because you have the authority, you are the only one that can dictate all this type of ecosystem kan, legislation kan, regulation.
I guess, right, because well, kalau saya bukan moderator malam-malam begini kan, kerja saya kan audiologist actually, for the benefits of penonton sekalian. I'm an audiologist, so siang-siang saya bekerja sebagai pakar pendengaran, and I'm also attached once a week to a private hospital here in Kota Kinabalu. So what we do is setiap pesakit will have a registration number. So for example, Lim comes to me, dia punya is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I put in 1, 2, 3. I'm able to see when was the first time Lim came to the hospital. I will see all the doctors punya name, and I will see all the case history and medicine. Apa si Lim dapat, the diagnosis and things like that. And the beauty of the system is that same hospital, as long as you have that MRN plugged in, for example, the doctor is in Johor and puts in the MRN of that person, he will be able to access that. So, bukan mo cakap tiada, it is already happening in Malaysia, and it's already happening in the the private hospitals. Sudah ada, and we've got the tech support people that does everything. I guess, and this is my thinking, that government do not have the budget to do it. Sebab the two most expensive department to run is education and medicine. Sedangkan kalau kita cakap pasal di hospital pun, barang-barang equipment seperti just the simple audiometer, for example, kalau rosak barang itu, just to repair it takes about maybe 15 to 20,000. Mana itu government mau dapat itu 15 to 20,000 just to go and repair that, kan? So sometimes they work with the private sectors like myself and said, so the people or the officers from the private sector would say, it takes a long time for this machine to be repaired, because dia bukan senang-senang macam you panggil supplier and said, hello supplier, can you come and take my barang? Because, with the bureaucracy, right, with all the red tape, and we know all that, red tape sini, red tape sana. By the time the hospital has a budget to allocate just to repair this machine, 1 tahun sudah limpas. So it's much easier for them to say, okay, hello Ophelia, you are in the private sector, can you help me out? And I will be able to help out. So that's just me sharing a little bit about what is happening, just a little bit from the healthcare industry. Begitulah dia punya cerita from my side. Does anybody want to respond to this? Madam Doria or Lim, do you want to respond to this? Kalau tidak, we can move on to the second question. Okay, right. We'll go to the second question. Questions are pouring in right now. So let's look at the second question. Second question came from Facebook, and the question is, with the 5-year strategic plan that is that is still managing despite the ongoing pandemic, will there be a contingency plan? Let's say the strategic plan doesn't achieve its objective. So this is for Madam Doria. What is happening now that you've got your 5-year plan, and also with the consideration that pandemic is around, will disrupt the flow? Is there a contingency plan? That's the question.
So thank you for that question. It's something that we think about often. So we are putting the plan in order and we are starting small. It's a very big and ambitious plan given by the State Secretary. Basically, our approach is we think big, start small, and we grow fast. That's what we plan to do. So for right now, in phase 1A, I would call it, in phase 1A, we have identified key, what you call it, data providers who will contribute towards our people, business, and job hub. Not all the 120 agencies for the state agencies to be on board now, but those that are ready, we will prepare them and then get the data ready so that it can be consumed in a manner that will benefit our applications and our end user. So the whole thing about digital government or the digitalization is the rakyat have to feel the benefit of the project. That's the core of the matter. We know our citizen, we know our economy, what is the concern, and we able to respond because we know the locations of certain issue. So that's the there's only like how much can we do in this few years, but it depends on how many agency we are able to get them to come on board. So we start small, but we really want to run fast with this idea. Have to think about how we leapfrog. We are looking at very good models from other countries, so that will enable us to run faster. That's the hope.
Thank you very much, Madam Doria.
There's also in a way like we cannot fail this project. It's not it has to be. We just want to make sure that it's impactful to the people, to agency that are involved, and also to the public.
Right. Thank you very much for your response, especially when we are talking about digital, right? You know how kalau everything is so instant now, everything is so instant. Kalau, for example, kita WhatsApp kita punya friend and the reply only comes after 1 hour, that is super slow. We are so used to being so quick. So when we're talking about speed here, we're really talking about speed. We're talking about ini hari, we talk about it next week, that facilities and the policies better be up already. So we're really talking about speed here. Anything that takes more than 1 year is, I guess, a dinosaur, to put it in a more harsh way lah, kan? So thanks very much. And also thank you very much to the person that asked that question. Okay, let's move on to kita punya third question. This has something to do with technocrats. Let's wait for that to be flashed so that everybody else is able to see. But before that, let me just read that. Yeah. Okay, so I've got one really quick question to the panelists. How do the technocrats ensure that their view will be taken as a consideration in a bureaucratic decision making, especially those related to the digitalization intervention planning? What is the challenge and how to deal with it? So this question can be answered by Lim and also Dr. Ram, being I wouldn't say consumers, but people who are, consumers lah bah. Okay, Dr. Ram, you want to take this first?
Bagi Lim dulu lah.
Okay lah, Lim first lah.
Daripada tadi kan belum lagi dia pergi di center stage.
Okay, ba. So, like you want me to take the position of a consumer in in terms of how I see.
Your thoughts, really, your thoughts. You can switch hats. You can be a consumer, you can be a provider juga. So what are the challenges that you're facing as a consumer, number one, and what are your challenges as an implementer of, digitalization? You can answer both.
I see. Okay, maybe I'll frame it in this. So the whole problem with digitalization is that, like you said, right, things move very, very quickly, right? And that doesn't work very well with the whatever processes or decision-making framework that we already have right now. And this applies not just to government, right? Even in a company, right? Some companies have very long decision-making cycles, right? And by the time someone makes the decision, it's probably too late or irrelevant, right? So maybe this is what we need to address, right? How do we get timely decision and provide enough data so the decision is made properly, at least as correct as possible, right? And then we, like, for example, because I'm a software developer, right? So we also have this problem where we're trying to build a product, we don't know whether the user like it, right? If you spend too long building a product and release it, the user don't like it, you waste all the time and all this, right? And we actually have at least a way to deal with it. And I think everyone knows about it, right? It's like, I don't talk about it, being agile, right? And what it means is that we shorten the whole decision-making cycle and make it into bite size, right? Meaning, instead of trying to plan a 5-year plan, right, you chop it up into maybe a quarterly plan, right? Where you can quickly get feedback whether the thing work or not, right? Because if you plan for a 5-year plan and only 5 years later you do something, it may be too late, right? You learn too late, right, in the cycle. But if you can shorten it some way, find some creative way to test something out, roll out a prototype, roll out some sort of tests in an area, that at least you feed the information back from us, right? The consumer, the rakyat, right? We actually tell you, hey, no, actually this doesn't work, right? Or you should change this part. Then government can learn from it and then make an adjustment as quick as possible. I think that is needed because this whole cycle is just taking too long, right? I'm also involved in some of the consultancy discussion, right, where they invite the industry player to give their opinion, right? But the cycle, it takes really long, like a month or two before they finish the wrapping up, then they deliberate on it, and then they present a plan that is, So I think that needs to be addressed somehow. I don't know how, I don't have the answers, but this is kind of my thought.
Wonderful, Lim. Thank you very much. The key word that I'm getting out of your sharing is bite size, right? Because we are talking about being in this century where sometimes you cannot see past 5 years or 1 year because you don't know whether that works or not. Especially the pandemic. Pandemic has really taught us, if you want to say, kalau orang mau kawin during this pandemic, kawin pun kita tidak boleh cakap. Last time before the pandemic kan boleh lagi kita cakap, okay, dalam 2 kisemopok itu 2008 saya mau kawin, dia bilang. So 8 tahun sebelum itu dia orang sudah plan and things like that. And then comes the pandemic and you go like, jadi orang yang mau kawin ni sekejap boleh kawin, sekejap tidak boleh kawin. So I guess this pandemic really has taught us to kasih chunk things in a little bite size so that you see work or don't work. What's going to happen if I do this? If it doesn't work, let's move forward. I guess that would, a suggestion to the government that, hey, this is how it works. Sometimes a 5-year plan is good for us to see. A vision is of course good, but when it comes to implementation, perhaps something which is something is breakable, something that we can break into little pieces will be much more beneficial. So thank you very much, Lim. Dr. Rem, do you have anything to add?
Okay, kalau boleh sebab saya kenal banyak yang siapa yang tanya ni, and I think I can get what he is trying to say. Ini tentang teknokrat dengan birokrat bahkan. Sebab in the government, people who are making the decision, they are birokrat, trained in admin, trained in governing lah kan semua. Tetapi for some technical punya agency or some technical punya ministry, macam kita lah digitalization ataupun Kementerian Sains dan Teknologi, we need a technocrat to be there. Meaning that this technocrat ni kan, people who are also making the decision, tetapi diorang punya latar belakang is on the subject matter expert lah. It is not so much on admin and everything. Now, question dia ialah, when it comes to something very technical like this, misalnya digitalization, sejauh manakah pengaruh teknokrat ini dalam membuat keputusan berbanding dengan birokrat. My experience di Kementerian Sains, Teknologi dan Inovasi, and bear in mind mostly Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, that is a very, very technical ministry. When I say technical, meaning that it is about substance. If you don't understand the substance, no matter how good you are in admin, how good your background in doing strategy and everything, it wouldn't work if you don't understand the subject matter, kan? Now, masa saya di kementerian itu, saya dipinjamkan di sana lah. Saya dipinjamkan sebagai teknokrat, basically to work with the bureaucrat lah. But during that time, I'm the only technocrat tahu the entire ministry itu. Sebelum saya, masa itu kan ada banyak teknokrat. All the bahagian-bahagian, misalnya bahagian bioteknologi, bahagian nanoteknologi, bahagian ICT, bahagian industri, itu semua ketua dia adalah orang yang subject matter expert lah, coming from industry or coming from university. So they will help the bureaucrat to make a decision. Tapi bila saya masuk di sana kan, I'm the only technocrat kan. I'm not saying that the bureaucrat is not really friendly to my ideas atau apa semua. Tapi when you are alone, susah bahkan. Macam sometimes you probably kan, the way they look, sebab dia mesti ingat birokrat ini, they are looking into the process, they are looking into the procedure, and they want to make sure that all the process and procedure must be observed kan. But for the technocrat, because they are subject matter expert, macam Lim cakap tadi lah, you want to go for the fastest punya route because this is how it works kan. Tapi tahulah birokrat ini because they don't understand the ni kan. Tapi anyway, talking about that one, susah juga saya mau cakap, tapi saya rasa kita sedang dalam proses untuk membudayakan hubungan di antara teknokrat dan birokrat. Dan kalau saya boleh share lagi sikit lagi Ophelia, dalam konteks Sabah, tahun ini kita sudah ada Kementerian Sains, Teknologi dan Inovasi. That is the first time. Sebelum ini, we never had Kementerian Sains, Teknologi dan Inovasi. This is a very highly technical punya industri lah, sangat technical. Tetapi semua birokrat di sana, saya pun terkejut tahu daripada SUT, and ini I'm not trying to trying to undermine diorang ke ataupun kasih buruk, tapi macam dia sendiri mengaku daripada SUT sampai pegawai-pegawai dia semua yang lain, nobody is trained in science punya expertise bah. So they are not subject matter expert. They are only good in making policy, procedure and everything. But the good things is they work very closely with UMS. Dia kata since you have the technologies and you have the scientists, they work with us. We will facilitate in terms of proses apa semua itulah kan. So baru-baru ini kalau saya boleh kongsi di sini, kita sudah table satu paper kabinet, dan kita akan table satu paper kabinet daripada kementerian ini tentang penubuhan Majlis Pembangunan Teknologi dan Inovasi Sabah, and we help them to develop that paper, and I think that is good. They also approach us to do another macam basically to review the blueprint on ICT punya Sabah lah. Tapi this is a little bit different from the Madam Doria, sebab Madam Doria itu is specific on pembangunan bah, to the certain aspect. This is more on overview lah daripada atas begitu. But what I'm trying to say is hubungan di antara birokrat dan teknokrat tu, I think it is improving. In the past we said that we are still silo, apa semua susah apa semua. I admit that still exists, but now I think it is getting better lah.
Thank you very much. Your sharing sekarang is in relation with the next question about how then is mana sudah yang saya nampak itu yang how to go to the state level. Oh, question number 4. So the question now is how do we bring these digital issues to be highlighted in the state level? Madam Doria, how do the rakyat get to you to say, hello, we need this to be done? How is that? What is the process?
Plenty ways, I suppose. We are newly established, but we can go all the different channels, even through Kementerian Science, Technology, Inovasi's activity, all those will be brought up and it will be discussed at the state level. Yeah. Through even a forum like this, the government will pick up what are the issues that we recognize. We are listening, and even in social media, what are the concern of the citizens? Those are being picked up by us.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to clarify, so it doesn't mean that talking to the government means mau tulis surat rasmi, kasih email. So
Yeah.
as long as you've got that platform, as long as you have that conversation macam begini, there will be some government officers who will be watching this and bringing it and proposing it to the government. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, definitely.
Right. Okay, so it's not like mesti mau klik itu www baru kami dengar kamu punya suara. Tidak begitu ah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's good to know then. Then we have to still, keep on talking about this supaya the government is aware. So to the question, the person that asked the question, yes. So guys, let's keep talking about this because kalau kita senyap, then the government is not gonna know. Okay, the government is not, manusia ba ni government ni? Dia bukan tidur, lepas tu dia mimpi di kayangan, lepas tu dia bangun, and then after that they want to implement something. They need to listen to what the rakyat has to say. So instead of kita complain di WhatsApp, keluarga bilang, ini government begini, what about I propose to anybody out there, Sabahans, Malaysians, if you really need to voice anything to the government, use platforms, social media. And bila kita mau cakap about anything, we want to propose to the government, biarlah kita cakap macam civilized manusia. Okay, so because I see a lot of that, macam hantam ba keyboard warrior, cakap begitu. Tapi, as a rakyat kan, you want your government to help you, tapi kamu menanya macam monyet. Jadi how are you going to expect the government to melayan apa monyet cakap? So let's not be monyet-monyet. Let us be civilized rakyat, have conversations like this. Have kita banyak platform, kita ada Facebook, kita ada Instagram Live. We have people like Sinik and also Rambutan Academy yang boleh collaborate and invite people to come together. Macam malam ini we have got people from different different sectors. So just have a conversation. Let's not be munyet. And let's talk properly, and then the government will listen to us, right? So let's move on to the next question. Question number 5, what do you guys think that the most critical issue to be tackled that usually block the path of transformation? Let's ask Lim. Lim, what is the critical issue that is blocking the transformation?
I can't answer for the government, obviously, right? Right? But from what I've noticed in companies, right, is actually the most important people to get on board is the people who are going to be dealing with the systems directly, right? Because they're going to have their work flow change, right? I think that's going to be a very challenging thing because inherently people don't like to change, right? They want other things to change, but not themselves, right? So when we roll out digitalization plans, we have to take that into account. We have to work with them and basically have them buy in also, right? We cannot just tell them, hey guys, today onwards, you're gonna use this system rather than the manual system, right? It doesn't work that way, right? And that's where a lot of projects actually fail, right? They just don't want to adopt it because not enough training, not enough understanding, or the worst part is that it was designed not for them to use, right? Even though they were the user, it was designed by, say, the bosses. Right, the bosses agree, we want to digitize everything, right? And they didn't ask what they actually want. Maybe they have ways to do it better and stuff like that, right? So I think that is really a challenge that in the saying is in like the tech world, right? Is that we need to get close to our user. We need to get feedback from our user. So it applies here as well, right? We need to understand actually what is the problem and design the system correctly so that solve the actual problem. Sometimes we forget that. We just want to apply technology for the sake of it, right? And that's going to be a problem.
I've got a follow-up question for you. So what is, okay, I have lost my train of thought. I was just, I wanted to ask that question and then suddenly I forgot about it. It's okay. I'll get back to you with the question. Hopefully, I pray that I will remember that question. It is kind of related to what you were saying about, you have to listen to your consumer. Oh, okay, I got my question already here. Do you agree that the pandemic is a great force for change? Sometimes we go like, yeah, like how working from home used to be a thing where we go like, no, you must come to office 9 to 5. And then pandemic happened, suddenly everybody is able to work from home. And then we said, boleh pula. Macam, it's possible. So from a person from the technology point of view, do you think that the pandemic has contributed to that catalyst in digitalization?
Right, for sure, right? I think the pandemic, of course, it's a tragedy, right? A lot of people died from this thing, but I think everyone has noticed that it has pushed the whole world to move forward in terms of digitalization, at least for 5 years, right? Now, suddenly people realize that, hey, I can do a lot of things stuck at home. Right now, you can order food, you can deliver things around without actually leaving your desk, right? And that is actually a very important thing to know, that because if you imagine, right, if we had this pandemic 5 years ago, this may not be the case, right? We may have no Uber at that time or Grab, and suddenly it's really difficult, right? So I think people had to start realizing that we already have the technology in place, right? A lot of these are within our grasp, just that there was never a need, right? Like you say, like the bosses always wanted to see their faces in the office, right? Until the need to actually keep people at home. So maybe this is also a good experiment for a lot of people, for a lot of organizations, to realize that, hey, maybe we can do things differently, right? Because we are forced to, and there's a very interesting case study, right? Like, I think it was somewhere in UK when there was a disruption to their like the MRT or something, right? People started taking different routes to work, right? And then they realized that actually those routes are actually shorter than their usual they take, right? So I definitely see that the pandemic is a catalyst that can make us realize that there are different ways of doing things, and some of them are actually better, right? And I hope the hope now is it sticks around lah. We hope that we don't go back to normal after it's over, right? That's really the hope that I have.
Yeah.
I guess it's a new normal now. Okay, I'm aware that Dr. Rem has to leave and step out to attend his 9:30 event. So, Dr. Rem, apa kata-kata akhir before you leave us?
Bahaya juga nih kalau kata-kata akhir kan.
Maafkan saya, kata-kata akhir for this webinar. Go ahead.
Ya, main-main saja, Bah. Tapi saya rasa lah kan, mungkin bagus juga kita nih semua jadi monyet kan, sebab kalau kita jadi monyet barangkali kerajaan dia lebih dengar kan, kerak sama monyet. Tapi anyway, just itu joke saja, Bah. Tapi anyway, macam inilah pandangan saya kan, secara keseluruhan lah kalau saya boleh rumuskan, I try to put it in a very short one. Saya rasa digitalization ini sekarang ni bukan lagi satu option tau. I mean, this is the new way of how we do things. And even after the pandemic, believe me that whatever the new normal that we are adopting now, it will stay. Lepas tu siapa-siapa saja yang cuba mau balik kepada normal yang lama itu, they will get behind lah, diorang akan ketinggalan lah apa semua-semua tu kan. So we need to readjust. Sebab itu saya cakap, if that is what we are heading kan, untuk kita menyediakan rakyat kita ini, because at the end of the day, I still believe that kerajaan ada tanggungjawab untuk menyediakan rakyat ini. Ya, betul, this is the new normal. Everybody need to adjust to it. Organically, people will eventually adjust to it. But the government also need to facilitate, because that is the only way we can structure, we can design the way they are going kan supaya dia punya impact tu adalah lebih baik. So saya kata government punya policy on digitalization tu mesti comprehensive. We should not only looking into how to develop it. This is the strategy, this is the focus punya sector, but also all this yang paling penting sekali adalah facilitation. We need to develop a strategy on how to facilitate the rakyat untuk adopt semua teknologi ini dengan lebih baik dalam apa-apa semualah. Seperti yang kata Lim tadi itu, the biggest challenge would be the acceptance. Macam mana society, community kita tu menerima yang itu tu. So there must be a good strategy and policy from the government, including pembudayaan, pendidikan, dan hal-hal yang sewaktu dengannya lah. So dan thank you so much for having me here. Dan saya juga ingin ucapkan terima kasih kepada semua penonton-penonton. Lepas ni saya diam-diam nih, saya keluar saja. Jangan kamu peduli, kamu teruskan bersama dengan moderator yang cantik ini bersama dengan 2 lagi panel yang lain. Saya diam-diam saja keluar lepas ni. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for spending your your evening dengan kita semua. I really appreciate all your views, your thoughts. Especially coming from the educator punya field and also as a researcher in science and technology. So much appreciated, Dr. Ram. Kami faham. So if you suddenly disappear from the screen, kami tahu mana you went. Mana tahu lepas ini kita boleh ikut-ikut si Dr. Ram sebab dia punya next show is at 9:30. Okay, alright. So moving along, we've got the next question. And this is question from, question number 6. And this is for Madam Doria. The digital exchange, which you have introduced in your slides, is very interesting development. And it sounds like a game changer for Sabah. How can it benefit Sabahan citizens in terms of dealing with the government services like license application, registration, paying fines, and etc.? And how soon can you expect this?
Okay, so that's a very good question. We are now, as I say, in our phase 1A stage, where we have identified agency that can contribute towards building our People Hub and also Business Hub and also the Jaw Hub. These 3 hubs will be our main focus. So as we say, we start small. Our dream is big, but we start small with the ready agency first, and we will make use of the data that have been shared by this agency and come up with use case. So the first thing we want to allow the citizen to do using the 5A, accessible anytime, anywhere, anyone, and also device, that is applying licenses that deal with the government, especially from the state agency's point of view. We want it to be as seamless as possible, online, and also with one interface. We're able to deal with different agency. So that's why the digital ID comes about to be important part of this transformation. Also the company EID that we're coming up with, allowing us to be able to even go towards the licensing, trading license, and for company and all that. So these are our plan. As we extend out to phase 1B or phase 2, we're hoping more agency will be, once they see the use case, they'll be able to better prepared to join on board and to also share their data. And the data, once we go through our hubs and data exchange, there will be harmonized so that it can be used for other cases. So that's where developer like the private sector from LIM and also some NGOs, some innovations could give us ideas how we could leapfrog from those data we have gathered. So that's the plan to create. From there, I think whatever we can dream of, be it the digital marketplace. Datuk State Secretary say a lot about wanting to come up with a Sabah digital marketplace for us. It's a place where we can do e-commerce, and not just among ourselves, but to market our product even out of the country. So that's the plan. We can facilitate that to happen, and even long term, about economy recovery through tourism, be it local tourism or international tourism. The idea of a safe and smart tourism, that has to be, think about and thought through. So I like to mention that, like the earlier question mentioned about what are the hindrance that can block us. These three things that work together: people, process, and technology. So we have seen that all three need to be, to have some transformation. People mindset have to change, have to get ready to engage with the government in a digital manner, and the process will cover our workflow, how we do things, how the government handle the information from the rakyat, and also legislation, as what Dr. Ram has mentioned, has to be in place. This thing, the process, and finally the technology has to be identified. There are many choices. I think we have a lot of choices of technology to use, but again, we have to select those that we can really make use of. Like 5G is still not available, but we will work on what are the technology that are available now in Sabah and start from there, rather than wait for 5G to roll out. Then we will do something. So that's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Madam Doria. Like we said earlier, that this pandemic was a catalyst, and even the government also, when we say ada slow a little bit when it comes to wanting to implement stuff. But what I realized this year is that saya punya lesen memandu mati bah. not my lesson memandu, my road tax. Somebody was looking at my road tax and said, bukan ini January lagi kah? I said, oh my goodness, I have been driving around for 6 months with an expired road tax. And I drove to JPJ and realized that JPJ punya besar, dia punya sign and cakap, you have to make an appointment to come into JPJ. And then I said, matilah saya ni, what am I going to do now that my road tax is dead? And it has forced me to find online. And I said, I'm sure JPJ has done something in making sure that we are able to do this online. And I did. And sekarang saya tahu saya tidak mau sudah pergi JPJ. I renewed my road tax online. I printed my receipt and things like that. All I needed to do was to go to JPJ to collect saya punya road tax. So that's something that I learned from this pandemic. What has changed is also the way that I pay my income tax. Dulu saya rajin itu mau tulis cek, bawa pergi LHDN to go and bayar, but now everything can be done online. So that is one great thing that has happened. Also with DBKK, but even though DBKK has changed their punya platform a little bit, some glitches here and there. I was not able to log in sebab they've got a new system and things like that. But for application, because my sister had to apply for trading license and everything was done online, and all she had to do was make an appointment to go. No, she didn't even have to collect. She did everything online. Yes, my sister did everything online. She hantar the video of WhatsApp because the pegawai said, can you video your store? And can I call you? And can we do a video call so that I can see your store? Can you share me photos and things like that? So my sister's trading license that she got from DBKK was fully online. She didn't have to step into the BKK. So that was great. So she needed to log in and then print their punya trading license by herself. So these are some of the things that is already happening, yeah. If you all are not aware, so DBKK you can do things online juga. So that's 3 examples of government agencies who are already going online. Lim, do you got anything to contribute to this part of the conversation?
I just want to reiterate what you mentioned, right? Like in the process of your sister applying for the trading license, you mentioned the pegawai ask your sister to video and use WhatsApp, right? And that already showed that it doesn't mean when we want to digitize something, it has to be a comprehensive or integrated system, right? You know, I mean, the WhatsApp is there, we can use it as long as we follow certain rules, like like the retention of data and all that, right? But yeah, those are creative solutions that we can already tap, and I think that is definitely the way forward.
Wonderful, isn't it? So we can at least, end today punya session by saying, okay, at least there is something that is already happening. It is just that we are not aware about that. So let's move on to kita punya next question. We've got a question about Estonia. So Estonia and also 2024. Let's look at this question. So Estonia spent 20 years to build a digital society. So what is going to happen in 5 years, Madam Doria? What are we expecting in 2024?
I am very aware of that timeline, and even Singapore also took more than maybe 15 years, to establish a digital government status. So for us, for Sabah, I look at it on the positive side is we can learn from them. That's why we can say it's a potential of leapfrog because of the lesson learned from them. At least we won't repeat some of the mistake. And but to start small, we do not wait for internet to be fixed or 5G to be here or we have enough budget. We start with what we have, and we build on it. Then maybe the role of private sector or NGO will become clearer, how they can come in to complement us as we. So a lot of the technology, the private sector can lead the way, but as we have said, the government has a good policy to encourage under Sabah Maju Jaya, under the My Digital Economy. It's very encouraging for our all these young entrepreneurs to rise up, to build this economy in a digital platform. So that's what we hope to do. Definitely, we won't be able to finish digitalizing all agency in 5 years' time, but those that are ready and able to sign up and join in, the impact should be there, and we're able to see the effect of a digital government.
Right. Okay. So like we mentioned earlier that the pandemic was a catalyst for things to be fast, right? So things that we said, yeah, let's do it in maybe about 5 years, and things like that is already happening now. So many things was produced and created during this pandemic. So I guess, when we're talking about Estonia in 20 years, maybe we're just saying maybe that this can be done much faster because of the we are being forced to digitalize ourselves. Okay, let's move on to the next question, and we have got a question from Yusmir Yusuf. Setuju dengan moderator, internet is the biggest problem. Bandar pun internet macam siput, apalagi di kampung-kampung. Kesian pelajar yang belajar di kampung itu sampai kena panjat pokok. How can we address the issue, especially in terms of innovation in providing reliable and cheaper solution? Waiting for infra would be costly and take time to implement. Let's ask Lim this question. I imagine that Lim has solutions up his sleeve.
I don't have answers to everything, right? So, but I think recently, there's news, right, that Tesla Starlink is going to be available in Malaysia, right? So there's basically it's a internet service based on low orbit satellites, right? That actually is actually a big deal because the target audience for that is for rural areas, right? It's for places where the connection is very spotty, the coverage not high enough, right? Even for mobile coverage, right? There's no mobile data, for example. So the satellite is gonna be able to fill that gap, right? So maybe technologies like this can help us, fill all the issues in the rural area, like maybe set up a kiosk in the kampong somewhere, right? That have access to this satellite connection. Then they can then distribute the connection in the nearby area, right? Some sort of like a hotspot, right? Through this kind of link. So yeah, I think there are a lot of solutions. Just that we need to look at it, right?
Is this cheaper though? Is this something cheaper? Is it easier to, is this infrastructure easier to provide compared to internet?
Like if you look at, there's the two parts of the cheap equation, right? One is the cheap in terms of how much the consumer is paying, right? And then the other one is cheap at laying the infrastructure. We know that you want to put the cables all the way from the city to the kampong is going to be a tough thing, right? Like Sabah itself have, not just connectivity problem, you even have electricity problem, right? Because the grid is really widespread, right? So technology like satellite ignores that, right? Like how mobile data ignores, physical lines, the satellite can bridge the gap in that sense too, right? They can ignore cell towers altogether. They come from the space, right? So that could help. It maybe in terms of laying the infrastructure, it could actually be cheaper, right? And then I don't know how from the consumer side, maybe government subsidies or some sort of deal with the satellite providers to provide cheaper access, because you're gonna distribute a single access, for example, to the kampong, right? Maybe you divide the cost and stuff like that. I don't know how it works, but I could imagine a lot cheaper in terms of infrastructure, at least.
So when you said, what is the name of the thing again? Telstra,
Starlink?
Tesla.
Yeah.
Tesla.
From I think it's under SpaceX actually. Tesla and SpaceX is under Elon Musk, right?
Musk,
so they launched a low orbit satellites. I think about 10,000 satellites in space.
Yeah.
Basically, that help beam internet across the world, right? So I think a lot of people are looking forward to it, especially in the rural areas, right?
So who has benefited this technology? Do you know?
I read somewhere about even Australia is looking into it. You mentioned about Australia have this problem. Australia is huge, right? Australia is a very big country, right? They also have problems in the rural areas, right? In the middle of Australia, like deserts and all that, right? They don't also have connectivity. So that's why they're also looking forward to this, right? They solve the problem of, if you're really deep in Australia, you want to have access to internet, this satellite can help with that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for highlighting that. I shall read a little bit more about that. Tesla, SpaceX, Elon Musk. Okay, all right. So we've got our final question. I think the questions start pouring in. Okay, I shouldn't be reading whatever the moderator, the back channel is telling me. But let's look at our final question, because it's already almost 9:30. So perhaps we could answer one final question and then we could wrap up and then we can end this session. So final question is from Samuel Pong. I guess many years ago, Sabah government had blueprints on digitalization, but wondering if a change in government may have an impact on its continuation and completion. So we know who to answer this question lah. Madam Doria, over to you.
Okay, for these questions, that's why we have a civil servant like us to, I wouldn't say bridge the gap, but in between governments, basically all government wants to do well, wants to serve the rakyat better, wants to have a better report card to show to the rakyat. So that's where civil servant comes in to fulfill that role. The methodology may be slightly different focus, but it is still the people at heart that we are serving the people, and the services should be always can be better. Yeah. So that's what we plan to do. Always pushing ourselves to do better or outdo ourselves. We are, as the civil servant, we do realize the public expect instant, quite fast. But there are times we have to look at the legislation to make sure the decision we make is supported and guaranteed and has a long term, there's a guarantee to it. So sometimes speed is of concern, is what we like, but it has to be supported by a good data governance and also good legislation. So that's what we are here for.
Sorry, I muted. I'd like to now wrap up and get what are your final thoughts and your hopes and aspirations? Perhaps I would ask Lim first, and then I'll go to Madam Doria. Lim, what are your thoughts, based on whatever that we have discussed over the past 1.5 hours? What are your thoughts? What are your final I wanted to say final wishes, your thoughts, and what are your wishes?
I must say that I was quite surprised when Madam Dora showed the slides, right? That there is actually a plan, and they address a lot of things. That they look at other countries, how they do things, right? So I'm very hopeful. At least we started somewhere, right? I think this is more important. I know we are late, but it's better to be late than never, right? I think for us, we as the the consumer is also have to be a little bit more, positive about things. I know there's a lot of things wrong, right? But I think we can focus on the good stuff. Like you said, like your sister can do the whole process of getting a training license online. That is something that we should celebrate, right? We should celebrate more of this so that it gives the government also a feedback that, hey, you guys are on the right track. You should do more of this. We like this. Let's do more of this. I think that's our role to play. We should give feedback, right? Constructive feedback that can help move the government towards the right direction. Right.
Wonderful, Lim. So this is what we're saying. You want to get to the government to listen to you. Don't be munyit. Celebrate small wins. Celebrate big wins. But we would also have to stop and say, you know what? This is good. This is great. Let's talk about this. At the same time, also to talk about our feedback. So thank you very much, Lim, for that. Madam Doria, what about yourself? What is your final thoughts before we end up this webinar today?
The state government of Sabah is committed to facilitate all this digitalization. So as I say, we begin with the 3 hubs and also the data exchange. And hopefully this will enable the development, to be sustainable, and also there will be relevant applications that can come in through our NGO and also private sector. That's our wish. Because this journey of digitalization will take government, private, and even NGOs, or as what Dr. Ram mentioned, technocrats and bureaucrats to make it work. So we need your feedback, and platform like this is very constructive and able to give us an idea and a feel of how technology or how people in the private sectors are viewing about digitalization. So it's something that's speed up by this pandemic, and we hope it will encourage us to do more for the public.
Thank you very much, Madam Doria, and also Lim. It was a
I'll add little
fruitful.
bit. I want to add
Yes.
the fact
Go ahead.
that there is a 5-year plan to get somewhere, right? But I think we all know that digitalization is not something that we are done with at the end of the 5-year plan, right? Or is ever going to be a goal that we can. It's supposed to be a moving target, right? I think it's more important that we have the mindset to improve. That's probably the most important one, so that we can always move forward. Right? I don't think we're going to get somewhere and then we will stop, right? That's not the intention, I believe.
Yeah. So with the presentation that was shown to us with the timeline, it's not going to say that, okay, 2024, we're all done and we have achieved our goals. Yes, let's clap our hands and things like that. No, it's not. Digitalization is something which is ongoing, and we have to keep improving, keep doing, keep addressing. So something that I'm getting out of this conversation tonight is that if I could just summarize, from the three speakers, Madam Doria, Lim, and also Dr. Ram, who was with us earlier, that this pandemic is a catalyst. We see a lot of creations that came out of this pandemic, despite all the unfortunate events that happened. But the good thing is that it has changed the way that we look at things. It has changed the way that we handle things, even from the government sector. Also, like I was sharing with all of you earlier, that my sister was able to get her trading license under DBKK, everything online as in using the technology that was already there. We didn't have to wait for any policy. We didn't have to wait for any other new infrastructure. We relied on things which was already available, which was WhatsApp, and that was it. And whatever that was already available for DBKK, which was the website, and just to get it printed, and it was all done. So what I like to also, leave you with is that the government is listening to all of us. We don't have to write a surat rasmi to address to Madam Doria to say, hello, Madam Doria, this is what we want to do. Conversations like this, any kind of platform, let us be civilized, rakyat. You highlight, praise the government for doing a great job, and also give, express your concerns, things that you want to you want the government to listen to. Yeah, so government is listening. Speed is the essence when it comes to digitalization. We can't wait for years, for all this. Things that we want to say, like I said lah, even if a person WhatsApp you, and then the person, hantar WhatsApp in the morning, you only reply night time, it's still within the same day. It's also already so slow. So with the speed, then there is also a need to have that red tapes, what can we do to get to you quick without having to waste time and prolong things. So that is one of the questions for the government to take into consideration. And also the beauty about technology, like what Lim was saying, I came in this evening not knowing about Tesla. I know Elon Musk, well, not personally, but I know his existence. I know the great things that he's doing. I know that he has launched a satellite, to space, but I wasn't aware that Tesla was doing, the solution to what we can do for internet in the rural area. So those are some of the takeaway that I got from my living room. So thank you, Madam Doria, and also Lim. It has been a pleasure talking to you both. And I look forward to more sessions like this with all of you. And also to all the listeners, pendengar-pendengar, penonton-penonton sekalian, thank you so much for shooting us the questions. I hope we have answered your questions. And thank you very much for staying with all of us. So go and follow Cynic and also Rambutan Academy on their respective platforms. Get in touch with them if you've got any ideas or any suggestions that you'd like to suggest. Go to their Instagram and also Facebook and shoot them a direct message. All right, so that's all from me, your moderator Ophelia, signing off. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Right.
Goodbye.